like to thank you for the opportunity to come in and spend a couple of hours talking to you about tilt. So, and then after that, I have some things about MACV-SOG I'd like to share with you. But first we'll take care of tilt. So, but I really do appreciate the opportunity to come out. I am a brand new member of the organization, so this gives me an opportunity to get to see you and learn a little bit more about you. So I want to talk a little bit about the secret war, some aspects of it, and you'll see how it all comes together toward the end. I'm showing you some information about our company, High Performing Systems, and I'm showing you this because this is something that I created and have run for the last 40 years after working in Special Forces and Rangers and whatever. You can go through combat, you can leave the military, and you can, as all of you in here know, be successful in life. We have a lot of brothers and sisters out there who are struggling because they don't realize there is life after the military. So I want to share a few things about that as we go along. But anyway, this company, I formed it Leavenworth, Kansas, outside the wall. Most of the consultants I hired came from inside the wall. The tattoos and everything, you know, looked good on them, and people paid attention when I took them into corporate America. So we were about leadership. I created a lot of our own work on materials, on books, on resources, did a lot of research. Some of the research that we were doing was a continuation of the research that I did with the military. I spent a period of time where I was on what was called at the time the Airland Battle 2000 project to understand how we were going to fight war in the 21st century. And my part was looking at how do you build high-performing organizations, high-performing battle staffs, and high-performing warfighters. And I got to do really neat things like keep people up for the long periods of time and monitor them. And I discovered that after you keep someone up for 5 continuous days, they tend to die. So they brought me back in and they said, you know, we're going to have to adjust a little bit. You're losing too many people in the research projects. But anyway, I talked to University of Georgia and they're letting me do it there. But you'll see some of that in a minute. A lot of different clients all over the world, but we still do a lot of work with the different groups, the special ops side of it. And I go in and I talk to them, and they're really interested in knowing what are they going to do when there's an EMP blast that takes out their night vision, their infrared, all the high technology that they currently use to go deal with the bad guys. When they don't have that anymore, what do you do? Well, Tilt and I and some of the rest of you in here know what you do. You don't use that. You start using your senses. You put me out in a dark area and you're out there. After a few minutes, I'll hear you breathing. And particularly if you know I'm out there, I'll start to hear your heart rate increase. Your heart will start to pound. You'll make some kind of little sound, and that'll be the last one. There are ways to do that. Now, when I say this, when I'm talking to civilians, and I say, just imagine, we turn all the lights out in this room. You can't see anything. And you know I'm in the room with you, somewhere. And my job is to terminate you. And look at the expressions on their faces when you mention something like that. So anyway, So I got to do a lot of good things like that. We still go around, work with SWAT teams, military, talking about particularly making decisions under high stress. Work with nuclear operators. You just wouldn't believe how often some of these nuclear plants almost go nuclear. We just don't get told about it. But when you go in and you work with the operators, you find out, how do they stay calm? If they don't stay calm, how do they recover from it? So anyway, a lot of neat stuff that I get to do. I really appreciate your service to our country and what all you've done. And there was a time, I'll tell you about in a few minutes, where we were using car 15s. Some of you might remember those. And we had 20-round magazines. The problem was the little spring in a M16, a car 15, was designed to hold a 20-round magazine in, like this was designed to hold onto my belt, and it just came off. So I discovered the first time I went out with a 30-round magazine, which weighs a lot more. I jumped off the skid of the helicopter, hit the ground, and I didn't have a magazine anymore. It's down in the grass and the mud somewhere, you know, and NVA all around the woods looking at us. And I'm trying to find my magazine. We had to replace all the springs. But I appreciate your service. Quick safety briefing. I know Tilt knows CPR. Someone in here probably has a phone and could dial 911 if we need it. Go out the side door back here into the parking lot. 75 meters, that's where we'll assemble. Be careful walking around. I noticed a while ago when I was putting the cards on the tables, these chair legs are funny in the way they're positioned. They're very easy to trip over. So let's try not to hurt anybody as we go along. A little cautionary statement. I am going to talk a little bit about combat. So if it makes you nervous, then there was a war that you all know about from 64 to 72, secret war where we were fighting in some other countries. And I'll see if I can get this to pop up in here and you to be able to hear it.
Watch what protein shakes do to your body.
Yeah, we're going to talk about protein shakes for a minute. And the speaker's not very loud, but very hard for us to hear, but just look at the image. This is a much more modern day view of what you all did and the equipment that you used and how you used it. This is the technology that I was talking about earlier that they're using today, using now as we speak. Some of this is being applied toward the bad guys. And they train all the time. Of course, it's not going to work for me right now, but yeah, okay. So what I tried to do was write a book to let people see what I saw when I worked with MACV-SOG. See it through the eyes of a new leader coming in and going on those types of missions. This is what I saw. This is what I experienced. This is what scared me. These are mistakes that I made that I said, I'll never do that again. And I started changing things, the way I ran the team, the way I trained the team, what we took when we went out on missions, and put it in a book. So if you read these two books, you can see how I started, what I learned as we went along, mistakes that I made, how we changed it, how we changed what we did with the team, how we fought, how we ate. I told my team, second team I got to, when we're out there 4 or 5 days and you have to poop, I want it to smell like NVA poop. So we're going to do some things before we go out there to cause that to happen. I don't want them to know it was us. I don't want them to find us because we smell different. And you can see all that in the books. In SOG, we had some interesting experiences where sometimes you needed to drop in and have a talk with the bad guys and convince them to do things differently. There's a lot of different ways of getting to them. I've been working out of Atlanta, around Atlanta for quite a number of years. The traffic there is horrendous, and you get stuck in traffic. And one day I was thinking, this is not so bad. And I remembered this was a commute from the office back home. I had been at work, and I was commuting back home. And Eldon Bargewell was my 1-1, assistant team leader at this point. Him and 2 other guys had gone before us, and they've already been pulled through the canopy and being taken into a fire base. So everybody's excited at the fire base because we're coming from a direction nobody should be coming from, and we're hanging under a helicopter. So they were out watching. The guy on the bottom there is me. My 2 other teammates are both wounded. The blood's dripping down on me. But to get there, all of a sudden, we're at 7,000 feet hanging under that helicopter, oscillating back and forth. And I'm looking up at my rope, and I'm seeing it start to fray on the edge of the helicopter. It's 7,000 feet to the ground. My radio's been, I was hit a couple of times in the radio, so the radio doesn't work. My survival radio in my shirt pocket got a big piece of shrapnel buried in it. It hit me right there. It's not working. I can't tell anybody in the helicopter I got a little issue here. So that just leaves me with the option of saying 7,000 feet, that's about a 30-second free fall. If I've got 30 seconds to play with, I can flare out, I can do some turns, I can rotate, I can do some backflips before I impact. So sometimes you have to change your plans. Commute home is not always the way you might think it is. So no reserve in this case. You're going in. So So a friend of mine had gotten to Vietnam about 30 days or so before me, and when I got in country, he and I went to a little bar there in the train, and as we're consuming some philosophical nectar and talking, he said, tomorrow, when you go through your in-processing, at the end of the day, they're going to ask you if you want to volunteer for SOG. Do not volunteer for SOG. If you do, you will be dead. If you're not dead, you're going to have the crap shot out of you, and you'll be a nutcase. Do not volunteer for SOG. I'm 21 years old. And when the man says, I want you to volunteer to go anywhere, do anything, and not tell anybody for 20 years, I can do that. Because my prefrontal cortex hasn't developed yet. Risk taking, I don't know what that is. I can't evaluate risk. I think I'm going to live forever. So anyway, that's what I did. Sign me up. What am I going to do? Well, we can't tell you that. Why not? Because nobody knows until after they join, and then they tell you. But then you can't tell anybody. So nobody knows what's going to happen to you. We just probably won't ever see you again. So anyway, a little bit about that. And I ended up with a code name Dynamite, and that's where the book's name's coming from. A suggestion by Tilt when we were talking about what the title of the book might be. So MACV-SOG went out into the neighboring countries where we were not supposed to be and ran missions to mess with the North Vietnamese out there, and raids, ambushes, prisoner snatches, pilot recovery, wiretaps, assassinations, all kinds of different cool things to do. The bottom line, go anywhere, do anything, don't talk about it, and you had to do it in a sterile fashion. Sterile meaning no dog tags, no ID card, nothing that says U.S. on anything that you have. You are out there on your own, completely denied by the U.S. government that they knew anything about it. So if you were caught, Geneva Convention didn't apply to you, you could be executed on the spot as a spy. So that made it more exciting. So what we did was, this is the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and North Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand. We would go over there and interdict the highway and do some other neat things, to the degree that they had to dedicate like 50,000 hardcore North Vietnamese troops to try to catch the SOG teams. So they had to divert a force that large into the area just to try to stop us. And they had special teams, SOG hunter killer teams, that would come after us. And if this one plays for us, and it might, it's gonna make a little noise maybe. Some of the things we would do is go in to a place where we could observe the highway, observe the North Vietnamese moving around, and then we would have our buddies from the Air Force come in and deliver little surprises. So Tilt would get on the radio and say, the building right over there has a NVA company in it. Take that one out. The building next to it has an NVA platoon in it. Take it out. And they like to take it out with, take them out with napalm. The Air Force really likes napalm. They like to put that stuff out there, so it works pretty good. So it's pretty neat to be setting up on the side of the hill, watching those targets that you identified get hit. Yes, there's some more gone, Anyway. Any quick questions about that before we get into more specifics? Okay. When I got to Fubai at FOB1, I met a guy that, from my perspective, I thought he's too tall to be out here. Somebody that tall is going to get shot. So I figured I was better off. And people always say, I thought you'd be taller. I said, if I was a quarter of an inch taller, I'd be dead. I wouldn't be here. You'd have a different speaker today. I don't know how he survived. So, and he looks just like he did then. He hasn't changed a bit.
A few more wrinkles.
Yeah, he's a lot older than me. But anyway, one of the things that you'll notice about SOG people, these are SOG operators. And the reason they all look like they're about maybe 20 years old or so is because that's how old they are. Because, like me, their prefrontal cortex hadn't developed yet, so they would volunteer to go out and do that stuff. Russ Mann said, he's the one that, wrote that little statement. One of the things he said was, I've always told people the most dangerous men I ever knew were the nicest guys around until they put their work clothes on. And then they were not very nice. And they were all young. This was Fubai. I'll show you about a minute of it. The film's kind of old now.
So
Going.
That's the first picture I've seen of seniority, but still looks like baby face
Yeah.
even now.
Yes. This is going inside FOB1 at Fubai. This is the outer perimeter with the zigzag trenches around it, the bunkers. The part you see out here is an old French minefield.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't, had no idea where they were planted, but they were out there. Water buffalo would get one every once in a while.
Yeah.
So, there are not many movies of this around. All right. This is where the real training took place. This is where I found that I would go between missions and I would get with the more experienced team leaders and learn from them. And they would tell me things. Don't do this, don't do that. One of the first conversations I had with someone in there, he was a E7, and he said, I'm going to tell you something, Lieutenant. Never, ever shoot an NVA less than 4 or 5 times. If he twitches, you shoot him 4 or 5 more times. Because you can't believe how many SOG operators have been killed by dead NVA. Do not turn your back on one of them. One shots, double taps, don't take the chance. So they could give you that type of information. We primarily carried a Car 15, the one on top. This is after we eventually got the 30-round magazine. I carried a high standard 22 pistol with an integrated silencer a lot as another weapon. Yes, sir.
How big was that 22 with the silencer on it?
It has a pretty long silencer,
Yeah.
but it's very quiet. And you can take out dogs with them. You can take out sentries. Lynn Black and I did some research on, using it in ambushes. In events. With bad guys. So that's in the book. You can read about in there how we were doing some off-the-book work with different weapons and things. So getting ready to go on the first mission, they sent me to S4 to get my loadout. I weighed, with rocks in my pockets at the time, I weighed about 140 pounds. I came back with almost 140 pounds of ammunition, weapons, and equipment that I was supposed to carry. So I was fortunate in that I was in pretty good shape. I ended up carrying, once I became the team leader, I ended up carrying 50 magazines. When I'm in contact, I like to shoot a lot, and besides, my buddy had told me shoot them 4 or 5 times, so you got to have a little more ammunition if you're going to do that. But it's a lot of weight, And every 1-0, like tilt, had the leeway to vary things a little bit in terms of equipment and what you carried, how you carried it. But we carried a lot of stuff. I went out on the first mission with Gentry Deck. We were going to go into a bomb crater just before dark, hit the ground, move off into the jungle. And instead of getting to go to the additional training for SOG people, they just put me on a team and said, we're going to throw you in the deep end of the pool. So I went out, and being an officer didn't make me the leader of the team. I had to go out just like everybody else. I had to learn how to be a leader. And then when the team would come open, if I had been vetted properly, then I could have a team. So I went out, bomb crater. I'm on the right side of the Huey with another American next to me, 2 indigenous members right behind me. Same thing was on the other side of the aircraft. So we're coming in slowly. As I look over the side, I saw 6 hooches, thatched hooches. And I remembered that wasn't in the intel briefing we just had. There's not supposed to be a village out here. And all of a sudden there's a village. The skids are dragging to the top of the jungle canopy as we are inching over toward that bomb crater. I'm thinking, if you threw a rock at me, you could knock me off the skid. Yes, sir.
Can you speak up a little bit? It's getting harder to hear you back there.
Okay. I'm getting more nervous, I think. I wasn't worried about you guys a while ago, about the caution I gave. That was from me. You know. Writing the book, got my attention. But anyway, thank you. So we're on the skid and we're going up, and I'm thinking, this is for real. It's okay to shoot these people. I'm not shooting blanks, and it's okay to shoot them, because if I don't shoot them, they're going to shoot me. So we get over the bomb crater and we start to settle down in it. We get as far down in the hole as we can, and the aircraft stops, and we're still about 6 feet from the bottom of the crater. I'm thinking I've got 80-something pounds of gear on. I've got to jump off of this skid and go 6 feet down before I hit the ground. I'll probably break both my legs, but you just have to suck it up and do it. So I bent my knees to jump and saw something move out of the corner of my eye. So instead of jumping into the crater, I pushed myself back up on the edge of the aircraft. What I saw move was a guy with an AK-47 standing right below us. Aimed at me. He pulled the trigger. Just as my legs moved, they hit the guy next to me. And, he starts to fall. So I grabbed him with one hand, half a magazine into this guy, kind of finished him off. You go out there. It's not like some of the missions you read about today where we have a meeting, we're going to go to this little village down here, land, jump out, kick a door down, go grab a high-value target, drag him out, come back. We'll be back at camp to eat tonight, have a couple of beers as we do our debrief. Tomorrow we'll get up and go do it. When we went out, you had a whole entourage. This is a big deal to run a SOG mission. With all the aircraft you had out there, you had C-130, specially equipped communications aircraft out there all the time, flying in a big circle that you could make radio contact with. You had your forward air controller Cubby that was out there, the team ships, the gun ships, usually some A-1s on standby over here in the rendezvous point, some F-4s in a rendezvous point, Cobras coming in, usually a Cobra on each side as you were coming into the LZ, ready to open fire if they received any fire. Backup Cobras right behind them to come in. So if something happened, like some joker decides to initiate the ambush 10 seconds too soon, you have all of this out there with you. So if you're sitting in the aircraft, getting ready to step out on the skid, you see the Cobras coming by. That's dealing with the guy that jumped up that shot at me. You can see the other guy next to me with the blood all over him. Now you see all the tracers. It was a full-fledged ambush all around the crater. And there's nothing between you and the enemy but air. So you're just sitting there. I thought at one point, maybe I'll lean back a little bit. They were still coming at me. They were still hitting stuff. They were hitting, the aircraft's taking a lot of hits. There's 2 guys behind me with their Car-15 on each side of my head. I'm getting powder burns from the muzzle flashes coming out, the M60 gunner right next to me, all the bad guys in the front. So eventually we're able to pull up out of the hole and make it back to the launch site. And I was talking to the team sergeant, and I said, while we were down in that hole, how many magazines did you empty? He said, I emptied 6. I had started on the 7th. I threw 2 fragmentation grenades and a smoke grenade. He said, what about you? I said, well, I emptied 3. I didn't throw any grenades. And he said, Lieutenant, if you don't learn to change magazines faster when people are shooting at you, you're going to die. I said, copy that. I thought I was fast. One of the things I learned here, once I thought about it, was when your stress level goes, I was trained to be a chemist. I'm having to learn some psychology now, but learn what chemistry also does to your body. When your stress level skyrockets, your fine motor coordination goes away. I couldn't get the magazine out of the pouch because it was in so tight, and I had blood all over my hand, so it was slick. I finally got it out. I couldn't get it in the magazine well, because this stuff is just coming continuously. So, learning experience that led to another book that I wrote later on called The Stress Effect. This is what happens to you when your stress level goes up. When you get in combat, it's different than when you're just out training. When you get live fire shoot back targets, the kind of targets that shoot back at you, they're a lot harder to hit. So here's what a Cobra looks like coming in with the miniguns, firing, and there's 2 of them coming in, 1 on each side of us while we're down in that hole. These are bullets. So there's 2 of them. That's just 1 there. There's 2 of them, and they're firing on each side of us as they're coming in there. So when we got back, after action review, went through all the stuff about what worked, what didn't work. Leadership lessons, this is all in the book, so I'm not going to just read them off. Luck always plays a role in whether or not you survive. You can't sit there and have hundreds of bullets coming at you, nothing between you and them but air, and not get hit without being lucky. Because you're not that good. So anyway, learned a lot of things. Also discovered when we got out in the jungle, remember, you know these little centipedes that we see around here? That's a Vietnam centipede. They don't even have to bite you. The venom is all over their feet. And if they crawl across your bare skin, you'll start to swell up and have a reaction to it. Tilt told me, he used to tell me he barbecued those things and ate them. I don't know. As you go through the book, one of the things you'll find is that each month, these are friends, that I lost. A lot of other people were killed during that month. I just didn't know them. I mean, I've seen them around, but I didn't know them. But the ones that I was friends with, that I, like Tilt, that I spent time with, if they were killed or missing in action, then I put them in the book. We closed Phu Bai down, moved down to CCN, Da Nang. I picked up another team there as the 1-0. Eldon Bargewell was an assistant team leader. That's a picture of us on top of the Marble Mountain. So in the daytime, we could play, walk around, do what we wanted to. As soon as it got dark, they would come after us, try to get up there and take care of us. So we'd have a nice little firefight at night, just light the whole mountain up. And it was pretty cool. And if you're going to be in a firefight, it's nice to have Bargewell to be the guy that's there with you. He was awesome. Holy cow. Okay. So we were on the mountain with and we had our team, had a mountain yard team, and one of the members came over and he said, we want to go down to the village, make a trip down to the village. I said, why? He said, we just want to go down, get something. Bargewell turned to the interpreter and said, you know, Contua, you go with them. As soon as they started down the mountain, Bargewell said, they're up to something. They are up to something. They were gone about 20 minutes. We heard a couple of rounds fire, and Bargewell said, I told you. They're up to something, and the radio almost immediately went off. Bargewell picked it up, and Cantua said, no problem, we come back. Bargewell looked at me and he said, they did something. They did something. So when they get to the top of the mountain coming back, they had a sandbag, blood dripping out of it. Bargewell said, what is that? The interpreter said, monk dog. Halfway up the mountain, there was a monastery with some monks in it, and they had a little dog. Now it's up on the top of the mountain with us in a sandbag. And I said, what are you going to do with it? We eat. Okay. So we had rice and dog that night. It was kind of interesting. The monks were not happy. So this is RT Michigan. We're loading. That's Bargewell. That's Cantua, the interpreter. Getting ready to go on a mission. Putting on the gear, we're going to get on a truck, ride down to the helipad. There's some other people on the truck with us not going on our mission.
Were these groomed?
Yes. And that's Cantua again. That's Bargewell climbing on there. I've got this really high-speed super 8mm camera that I took over there to do this with. But by the time I had it converted, it wasn't that great.
These are priceless
So,
photos.
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that was RT Michigan getting ready to go out on a mission. This is back on top of the mountain again. I got a call from down below saying, you have a visitor down here, you need to come back down to CCN, back down to the compound. So I took a few of the team members, we climbed down the mountain, went around the village, walked around to the camp, and I'll go in, and I see cousin Carl standing there. He's my first cousin. And I have a little talk with him about I'm at a top secret camp that doesn't exist. Nobody knows that I'm at this camp and what I'm doing. It's top secret. Nobody can get in here except SOG people. How did you get in? And he managed to get in somehow. But anyway, I said, well, since you're here, I've got to go back up the mountain. You want to go shoot some bad guys? He said, that's what I came for. We used to play Army as a little kid shooting bad guys. So now we get to do it together. So he spent a week up there, and we searched caves and, set up ambushes and did stuff every night. So that was pretty cool to get to do that with your cousin. So anyway, a day came when I was told that I was needed somewhere else and to let Bargewell have the team. So this is Bargewell when I said, hey Bargewell, you want to be the 1-0 of Michigan? He looks like a horse eating sawbriars there. He's grinning so big. He's so excited. So, I mean, there was nothing you could have said that would have made him any happier than, do you want to be the 1-0? Yes, you got it. So I did write a book on stress later on, based on things that I've learned there. You'll see a lot of it in the books. Stress can be debilitating. And what I do, and some of you might do this, they make books, coloring books, where you can buy these little colored pencil crayons, and you can color in these very exotic designs, and it lowers your stress. And I've been doing this for a few months now, and I'm getting pretty good. This is my last color, so I'm getting better. So, I'm a psychologist. I know this stuff. I know how to make it work. And I believe if I'm going to try to treat you and help you, I need to do it too. If we're going to make a parachute jump, I want to go out first. Follow me. If we're going to color in some books, I'm going to do it first and show you just how good you can get. So anyway, a lot of things happen. I won't spend a lot of time right now, but stress hits you in about a half a second. You get like 1,200 different chemicals dumped into your system, and everything starts to change. Heart rate goes up, your breathing changes, your motor coordination falls apart, your blood sugar increases, adrenaline increases, cortisol increases. You get a lot stronger, but your brain stops working very well, and you start to make really dumb decisions. So as it goes up, some other things that just happen quickly, besides your heart rate going up, is you start to get tunnel vision. And now you can just see right here, and you can't see the people around you. So you don't even shoot them because you don't see them. Or you hit them because you don't see them, and they become collateral damage maybe. And you get to the point where under the high stress, whoops, tunnel vision, your hearing goes. All of a sudden you can't hear. So people are yelling. I'm yelling, bend, right, bend, right. He didn't hear me. Car 15 is loud. He's stressed. We're receiving a lot of fire. He can't hear what I'm saying. Happens all the time. Happens with law enforcement. They think they're under attack, by a dozen guys, and it's one guy there. And what they hear or see is a bullet ricochet off of something, and they think there's a whole bunch of them there, and they can't hear each other yelling. If you don't do anything else after what we talk about today, have this tattooed on the inside of your eyelids. Every time you blink, you need to be telling yourself, when stress goes up, IQ is going to nosedive. Emotional intelligence is going to nosedive. Your ability to make effective decisions will nosedive. I've demonstrated it over and over with research. I've experienced myself in combat. You've all experienced it. That's why you can't hit that target that's right in front of you. Until you can manage the fear, manage your stress, you got a problem. People make dumb decisions every day. And you don't have to be in combat to make a dumb decision. You can just not. You've gotten enough sleep last night. Someone could have made you angry a little before, and all of a sudden you make a bad decision. If there's a little road rage, do not get out of your vehicle. If you open that door and get out of your vehicle, you have made a very dumb decision. Stay in the vehicle. If you can get away, get away. Don't jump out and try to whoop somebody, because that's an even dumber decision. All right? There's a lot of breathing techniques and things I taught my team members. When I was standing on the skid and we were coming into that LZ, even if it wasn't a hot one, I'm standing there, I'm doing what's called box breathing. Inhale through your nose to the count of 4, pause to the count of 4, exhale through your mouth to the count of 4, pause to the count of 4, start back in. Very important. In through the nose, out through the mouth. It's got to go in that sequence. You're building up nitric oxide inside your nasal cavities when you inhale through your nose. If you exhale through your nose, you just blow it back out in the air. You don't get the benefit of it. It's amazing how you can start to control fear and stress with that simple little technique. Understand about reaction time, how the enemy or the threat is going to react, and that's a 6-foot diamondback rattlesnake. When we were training the 82nd to go to the Middle East, and I understand they don't have rattlesnakes over there, but they have a bunch of other snakes. Just like where we went in Cambodia and Laos, 40 plus venomous species of snakes. If it was a snake, it probably was a bad one. Do not let it get you. But anyway, I used to teach the snake classes and stuff. So, but that'll raise your stress level a little bit. I don't know where these guys came from. I don't know how they got in that picture. I mean, you know, I understand. You know, it looks like I'm standing in a hole. I'm not. This guy, you all know, this is Major General Ken Beauray, who's also, you know, a SOG guy and was at CCN. Did all kind of stuff there and then just went on and commanded everything special operations there was around the world. And Sam is one of his teammates. Frank was one of his teammates when he was leading SOG teams. Idaho. So anyway, we got together for some target practice and stuff. So anyway, something to think about before we talk about tilt. In the book, you'll see a list of SOG imperatives. These are things you need to do. Lead by example. SOG 1-0s, team leaders, you're the first one off the aircraft and onto the ground. You lead by example. We're going in, and I'm going first. When they come to extract you, everybody's going to be on the aircraft before I get on. I'm the last one off the ground. You lead your people by example. You guys all know that because you've done it. Practice, practice, practice. You can't practice enough. Yes, sir.
Yeah, people don't know Ken Beauray is going to be the guest speaker at the SAR convention this year.
He's a very sharp, cool, awesome guy.
We were in the Ranger Challenge together.
Very cool. You're recording this so you can play it for him. He's a very, very cool, awesome leader. You don't do all the things he did without being like that, unless you're using an RPD, a sawed-off RPD machine gun on your missions. But that's for another story. Practice all the time. And what I put in with my teams is when we would come back, finish our debriefings, we did post-mission training. Things we didn't do so well on this last mission, we're going to practice and practice and practice. If we can't throw hand grenades very, very well from the ground, we're going to go lay out here in the sand, and we're going to chunk fragmentation grenades until everybody can do that. And we're going to practice it, getting them where they're supposed to go. Practice with the different weapon systems. Your mindset's what's driving the success. High stress, bad decisions, we talked about that. Adapt, adapt, adapt. When I stepped off the skid onto that LZ, I knew when my foot hit the ground, I was going to have to start changing the plan, adapting it. And then one day I realized the problem is when we would get together and plan the mission, exactly what we were going to do, and when the enemy does this, we'll do this, and when they do that, we'll do this. And then we get out there, and the enemy doesn't do what we planned for him to do because we didn't allow them to sit at the table with us so they would know what their job was. And they'd just screw the whole plan up because they'd go do this wacky stuff that wasn't part of our plan. So you got to be ready to adapt quickly. Don't stop moving. When you stop moving, I told the guys, when we stop moving, we're dying.
Not done,
But-
we're dead.
Yeah. But if we let the team decide we're going to stop here and fight it out, no, it's not going to work. It's like you see an ant hill and there's 4 or 5 ants crawling around on the top of it, and you've engaged them and they're coming after you. Yeah, it's like you could just kick the top of the ant hill off and they're just pouring out, and all of a sudden you stop moving, they'll go around you just like an amoeba, and then they'll just eat you up. You got to keep moving. Today started 3 days ago. Remember that. Today, where you are sitting in this classroom right now, started 3 days ago. What have you done for the last 3 days? Have you burned up all of your energy, all of your carbs? Have you slept too much, drank too much, ate too much? You know, what have you done to put yourself at the top of your game? If you're going to be in special ops, you got to stay at the top of your game all the time. You don't know when you're going to get that text saying we're spinning up. Head for the airfield. You got to be ready to go. Change requires reboot and practice. That explained a lot more in the book. Make your critical decisions before stress so that you don't make bad decisions under stress. But the other thing I want you to remember from this, and there's more of them in the book, this is also for everyday life. Everything you see right there is for you today, every day. Lead by example. Practice. Whatever it is you're trying to do, practice. And practice some more. Be better next time than you were the last time. Your mindset's what got you here today. It's what keeps you coming here today. Whatever you do, don't stop moving. Don't go to that big reclining chair that's so comfortable that you like and start sitting down in it every day and then longer every day, because it won't take long that you can't get out of that chair. I've seen too many people do it. Keep moving. It's okay to sit in there a little bit and relax, then get off your rear end and walk. Get out and move. This is a cycle, SOG mission cycle. So you get a warning order, you get your mission briefing, prep, all that kind of stuff. But think about it. I got the warning order that you guys might let me come talk. Okay? And then the mission was, what am I going to talk about? All right? So then mission prep, getting ready to talk to you today, getting airline tickets, hotels, all that kind of mission prep stuff that you have to do. Then the insertion. I had to go to the Atlanta Hartsville Airport and get on my insertion aircraft that inserted me out here. I got off of that, came to the hotel. Had to execute the mission that we're working on right now. Tomorrow morning I get extracted and I'll be going back hopefully to Atlanta. I'll do a debriefing. I'll gather my guys around and say, here's what I remember starting from when we got the mission briefing all the way to me getting back and what we're going to do better the next time we go somewhere. And then it starts over again. Your life is the same way. Every day you have missions and you need to do some planning to get you there, debrief it when you get back so it goes better next time. So immediate action drills with new team members. Do it standing and talking, then walk and talk, then live fire and talk. Try not to shoot anybody while you're practicing. Then go get in the jungle and do it, where you have holes and rocks and logs and big centipedes you have to step over and things like that. This is the last team I had, RT Virginia. We'd come back from a mission. I'm in the center back there. We're having a little photo made. This is my interpreter. So after I took the picture, I said, Ben, why are you smiling? Why are you smiling so big? And he looked up at me. It's hard to tell here, but he had a big chunk of shrapnel go into his mouth, took 2 teeth out. You can't see where it came out in that picture, but it's on the other side of his finger there. Took 2 teeth out. And I said, "Why are you smiling?" And he said, he looked up at me and he said, "Still have head." I said, "Okay." You know, mindset, perspective. What's a couple of teeth as long as you still got your head? That's the whole team. So, anyway, then I had to go back to the real world. And I won't go into all the details, but I got to the Atlanta airport, or well, San Francisco to start with, but Atlanta airport eventually, in uniform, and I'm going through the airport, and you know, the end of '69, and there were people who would yell things, people who would spit, and I'm walking through there, and I'm watching them, and I'm not saying they were smart, but they at least made sure there was some distance between us when they would spit at me or yell things at me. And I am looking at them and thinking, "You idiot. I'm not carrying 80 pounds of gear right now. In less than 2 seconds, I can close the distance between us and rip your face off and eat it in front of you before you realize what happened." And then I have to take a few deep breaths, do some of the box breathing, like I was talking about before, and say, "Let it go." Because sometimes I would think, I don't have enough energy to run all the way over to you. I've got a Browning 9mm high power stuck in my belt because they didn't have metal detectors then. You know, it's just easy enough. But I'm not going to do that. The biggest issue coming back from SOG, from the Wild West, was restraint. I've been in the Wild West, no rules of engagement, except I see you, I shoot you. And now I'm back in a place where people are yelling at me and calling me names, and I've got to control myself. My father, I used to go hunting, bird hunting, quail hunting with my father. First thing he wanted to do, the day after I got home, let's get old Mac and let's go over here in the field and shoot some quail. So we go over to the field. I'm standing in the edge of the wood line. My father was out in the field with the dog. He said, "What are you doing? Come on out here." I said, "I'm not walking out in that open field." There's no way. I said, "You flush them up. I'll shoot them from here. I'm not going out in that open field." So the next day, he says, "Okay, let's get your cousin Carl, and let's go to the little duck pond over in the woods. You don't have to go out in the open. Let's go over there." So we go to the duck pond, and we're walking along. We get close to the duck pond, and a duck flies up. The flutter and everything, he flies up. I immediately go to the ground behind a tree, and I've got a 12-gauge automatic, and I put 3 rounds in the duck. Boom, feathers everywhere, and the duck goes down. And you know, my cousin Carl and father are standing there, and about that time, boom, boom, 2 more rounds in him. Now there's nothing but feathers across the pond. And my father says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "He moved." So it took a little while to go from SOG back down to real world. So what do? You find other ways to get the adrenaline rush where you're not hurting people. So doing like Ironman, swimming down the Savannah River in Augusta that has alligators in it while you're racing down the river. That's always interesting. Doing Ironman races runs your stress level up. It keeps you in really good physical condition. You know, you swim 2.4 miles with 2,000 of your closest friends all trying to drown you the whole way. You run up on the beach, jump on the bike, you ride 112 miles as hard as you can go, jump off the bike, and you run a 26.2 mile marathon. And then you take a break. So those things run you up, and you apply all the stuff you were learning in SOG, except for the shooting part. And you remember the people. And, you know, Tilt knows all of those, I'm sure. So in addition to running, to remember people, you also raise, you know, suicide awareness. A number of years back, they started this thing called the 22 push-up challenge. So the idea was you do 22 push-ups a day for 22 continuous days. I don't count well. I don't stop doing things well. So today, it's been 1,914 days, 114,840 push-ups. Because I stopped doing 22 a long time ago and raised it to 60, sometimes maybe 100 or whatever. And doing it on Veterans Day and speeches, you know, it's interesting when you're standing there and you're talking about this, and all of a sudden you drop down and start doing push-ups, and the guy that's in charge of the Veterans Day speech, you know, he's standing there close by, and he looks at you and says, well, you know, some old guy, and he sees you go down to the floor, he thinks you've collapsed, you know. And I'm trying to do push-ups, and he's trying to drag me back up, and I'm saying, turn me loose, idiot. You know, let me do my push-up. So, you know, people remember that. And it's about suicide awareness. We have a number now. Tattoo this on the inside of your eyelids, 988. You dial those 3 digits. If you're military, then you know, you tell them you're military, and you'll get a person immediately on there to help you. I created a questionnaire called the Arsenal. It's a stress resilience best practices questionnaire. I use this with all the vets I can get a hold of. All of you are invited to go take the questionnaire. The results will come back to you, and it'll talk to you about the 7 best practices and give you a snapshot of where you are today and things that you might want to do to raise your stress resilience. And that's whether you're struggling because of PTSD or whatever, or because you want to be some elite athlete or whatever. Know where you are, raise your stress resilience, and you can do better. And I'm giving it to you, so just email me. I'll send you the link. You take it. The report will come back to you. It's about a 25-page report. Take you about 15 minutes to complete the questionnaire. If you know somebody, if you know a vet out there someplace who might be struggling a little bit, give them the link. Let them go take it. And if it looks like they're struggling, they'll have a phone number. They can talk to me. What are your questions at this point?
Let me just rise up for a question here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Dick. I have one complaint about Dick. He's like all of you, all of our special forces people and Dick. I have one complaint. He's too modest. Every man in the room, we're the quiet professionals. He's the epitome of the quiet professional. And in his 2 books, which when we're all dead and buried, and people go back and say, what was SOG? They're going to read his 2 books, and they are going to be held to the top 3 or 4 books ever written on SOG. They're that powerful. And it's from his messages with the referrals to the men who died at the end of each chapter, his personal recollection. And for our chaplain, Doreen, he's got an experience that you can take back to your people. One day he's at a helicopter. They've been in the mission for 5 or 6 days. He's at the helicopters, hovering. They're under heavy enemy fire. He's putting his troops on the helicopter, and a voice says, duck, or drop.
Drop.
Drop. He didn't wait. He dropped, and had he not dropped, the rounds from a machine gun would have killed him. So Doreen, we feel that's direct divine intervention. And that's the kind of, the book is full of stories like this. We've all heard about Hamburger Hill, but what you haven't heard about, which you'll read about in this book, is his 6-man recon team was set out to slow down and stop an NVA division of 10,000 troops, which they did. And there's a bunch of other stories like that in the book. We met at FOB 1, 1968, and you heard him talking about this guy Bargewell. For anybody who hasn't heard of him, it's Eldon Bargewell. He and I were E4s together when Dick was a first lieutenant at Fubai, and he stayed in for close to 40 years, did every Spec Ops command, and retired as a 2-star general, earned a DSC. And again, on that mission with the DSC, he had been on the ground, had heavy enemy contact around the shrapnel, went through his face. And he continued supporting the team, carried 2 men to the helicopter, got them on, it was a 2. And then as a helicopter, again, he was the 1-0. He was the last man on the helicopter, gave the team cover. And there's other stories later on with Eldon, his career at Delta Force in Panama, and he did every position there. And then with Dick, you also might want to tell them about how you wrestled a banana tree. Because this is one of the really great stories of Dick as a martial arts artist. Would you share that with us?
I wasn't going to tell that story, but we came upon a group of NVA, about 40 or 50 of them, we thought, and we're watching them, and then they start to get up and move out, and we're up on a little ridge just above them looking down, so we decided we better get out of the way before they got up there. It's starting to rain, and you know, it's a pretty steep ridge we're walking on, and car 15 in this hand grabbing bushes to kind of hold on so I don't slide off down the hill. And out of nowhere, this guy just comes out of the bushes, full force, hits me, knocks me over. My feet go up in the air. I fell down backwards down the side of the hill. And, you know, I immediately reacted, punching, clawing, biting, breaking, everything I could do, because he knocked the weapon out of my hand when he hit me so hard. And I could literally hear the bones breaking as I'm doing all this stuff and going down. And finally, a lodge step against a big tree knocked the breath out of me. When I got my breath back, he wasn't moving anymore. So I figured, yes. I took this guy out, and I'm looking up, and I can see my whole team standing up there looking down at me, and I'm thinking, they're horrified after seeing something like that take place. And then the stress calmed down a little bit, and I look around, and I realize I had just mauled a banana tree. Banana trees are soft, and in the jungle, worms eat around the bottom of them, and then they just fall all of a sudden. And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to get blindsided by a banana tree. I knew there was 40 or 50 bad guys just on the other side, so, and this must be one of them. So I took him out. I mean, I've had people tell me that in various parts of Southeast Asia, if they just mention my name, you can see the banana trees shake. The word has spread, and yeah, they're terrified. You just say my name. If one ever attacks you, you say Dick Thompson, and you watch them. They'll turn you loose. I mean, it's brutal out there.